Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Oakland, the third oldest of more than 35,000 Rotary clubs throughout the world. A couple of technology instructions before we begin the meeting. First, if you are a visiting Rotarian, hit the chat button and list your club and your name. Secondly, we recommend that all participants view these Zoom proceedings by clicking the speaker view button on the upper right-hand side of your screen. And finally, if you have comments during the meeting or questions of the speaker, please use the chat button at the bottom of your screen. Now, to begin the meeting on a sad note, we lost an 8-year member, Dr. John Segerson, an orthopedic surgeon who was with us for some time, better known as Siggy. We'd like to have a moment of silence in remembering Siggy. Now, please join Linda Bossenegger, past president, in the Pledge of Allegiance and the thought for the day. Linda?
Thank you, Jack, and welcome to all Rotarians. I'm very pleased to invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance if you would like to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And for the thought for the day, I thought when we're starting this new year, Rotary year off, I would select something from one of the people that I think is most inspirational. So I have two thoughts from Maya Angelou. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. And I've learned that even when I have pains, I don't have to be one. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. That's a great start to the meeting. Now, Ed Jellin, do we have any visiting Rotarians today?
President Pro Tem and the real President Ces, we do have some visiting Rotarians. So I'm very happy to introduce, let me see who I can see out there. We are very honored to have our district governor with us at this meeting today. From the Rotary Club of Gilroy, District Governor Greg Giussiana. So welcome, Greg, and thank you so much for joining us. And we also have a past president of our own club from the Rotary Club of Tahoe City. We have Dale Chamblin is with us. So good to see you, Dale, and welcome. And let's see, and we have one other visitor who I think might want to become a member of this club. So if you could all please extend your welcome to Marie Savarimutu. By the way, I've been practicing all morning to pronounce that correctly. I hope I got it right, Marie. Please welcome Marie, who might be joining our club. Those are our visiting visitors, Jack. And so welcome.
Great. Great. Thank you, Ed. That's terrific. And welcome to Oakland Rotary. A special shout out to a friend of mine for 50 years, Dale Chamblin. It's great to have you on board, Dale. Today we are going to introduce two new members. Each will be introduced by their sponsor with two interesting facts about our newest Rotary member. First, let's welcome past President John Protopopoulos. John?
Thank you, Jack. President Ces, fellow Rotarians and guests. It is my honor to introduce and sponsor Shonda Scott as Oakland Rotary's newest member. Shonda is a fourth-generation business owner and is founder, president, and CEO of 360 Total Concept. And her company will celebrate 14 years in business in Oakland, California this August. Now, there are many interesting facts that I would like to share about Shonda, but according to Pro Tem President Jack and President Ces, I only have time to share two facts with you, and you'll learn the rest during her self-introduction. Fact number one, Shonda is an extremely accomplished lady in our community, as she was the first woman to chair the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce and was inducted into the Alameda County Women's Hall of Fame in 2018. Fact number two, you don't know this about her, but her first business was a coffee business in Las Vegas. In fact, it was the first cyber cafe in Las Vegas. And in Oakland, she had a coffee cart at Amtrak, and her business was called Java Hut Gourmet Coffee. She was in Vegas before Starbucks was in 1994. Those are the two interesting facts. You'll hear more about her later. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Shonda Scott into Oakland Rotary number 3.
Welcome, Shonda.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Now,
you, John.
Ken Benson, will you please introduce our newest Rotarian?
Yes, it's my pleasure to be able to introduce to you all Daniel Freeman, or shall I say Major Daniel Freeman. And he's joining our club, by the way. He's the Salvation Army Major here in Oakland, responsible for the Oakland Adult Rehabilitation Center. The two interesting facts about Daniel, but I'm going to digress for a second. The other interesting fact is I happen to be on his Citizen Advisory Council, so that's how I know Daniel, and I know that he has a background with other Rotary clubs, and I'm pleased to sponsor him here. But here are the two interesting facts about Daniel, and I'm sure many of us would struggle with this first one. He and his wife both work for the Salvation Army. So one of his interesting facts is there's no such thing as home. He's always at work. And then number two, he has dual US and Canadian citizenship. So please welcome me, join me and welcome Major Daniel Freeman, and "O Canada, we stand on guard for thee." Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Daniel and Shonda, we are happy that you have chosen to join us. And please know that your family and friends are always welcome to join us for lunch and to participate in our projects and events. By accepting membership, you have adopted our vision. Quote, "Together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities and in ourselves." You will each receive your Rotary pin, and we will hope you will wear it with pride and find pleasure and fulfillment by attending meetings, participating in our service activities, and by contributing to the Rotary Foundation and Oakland Rotary Endowment. You will also receive, via mail, your Rotary badge, the 4-way test, the roster of your 300 and some odd new best friends, and eventually, when we all get back to face-to-face meetings again, you'll receive a centennial book celebrating our first 100 years. Let's give all of our newest members a warm Rotary welcome. Bravo. 2021 will be a banner year for Oakland Rotary, under the leadership of our 112th president, Ces Butner. Let's get to know him a little bit better before he shares his vision for Oakland Rotary this year. Ces was born and raised in Slater, Missouri, a town of 2,500. The family consisted of mom, a high school graduate, dad, who finished the 10th grade, and 4 boys and 8 girls, 11 of whom went to college. As the kids were each born around 2 years apart, mom told each child they had to be potty trained by 2 or they were on their own. We think Ces made it. Showing his entrepreneurial tendencies early on in high school, he created a hay hauling business by telling one of the farmers he'd haul his hay for free if the farmer would let him use his truck to haul others' hay. He had 2 buddies and split the money exactly 3 ways, even though he had set everything up himself, establishing his lifelong habit of fairness in everything he does. He went on to graduate from the University of Missouri in 1975 and worked in Minneapolis and Chicago for Fortune 500 companies for a few years before settling in Oakland in 1981, where he worked for a local beverage distributorship. He began as sales manager and quickly moved to general manager and vice president. And in 1987, at the ripe old age of 33, he purchased the business with business partner Denny Suzuki, naming it Horizon Beverage. He became the youngest owner of an Anheuser-Busch wholesale operation in the nation. Under his leadership, Horizon was recognized by Anheuser-Busch as one of its outstanding distributors, having won numerous awards. Revenues placed it among Black Enterprise's top 100 Black-owned businesses in the nation. Horizon employed more than 150 families and was the only labor-friendly beer distribution operation in the East Bay. He sold Horizon Beverage in November of 2015. Ces has long been involved with the Oakland community. He's been chairman of the board of the YMCA of the East Bay, the Oakland Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, and president of Sequoia Country Club. He has also served as co-chair of Friends of the Oakland Public Schools, City of Oakland's Budget Advisory Committee, the Oakland Education Council, the Bay Area Black United Fund, Lake Merritt Breakfast Club, Oakland Convention and Visitors Authority, Oakland Commerce Corporation, Redwood Day, and Oakland Festival of the Arts. I ran out of wind on that. Plus, he was appointed to the Board of Port Commissioners by 2 mayors and will have served 11 years on the port, 3 of them as president when his current term expires. As chairman of the Oakland Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, Ces led the charge for the adoption of the City Center Revitalization Plan and the creation of the Business Budget Advisory Committee to build the necessary link between city government and the business community. He was also a candidate for mayor of Oakland in 1998, losing to former Governor Jerry Brown. As a further commitment to Oakland, Ces donated $1 million to Oakland Promise, providing mentoring and scholarship money for 250 youth. He joined Oakland Rotary in 1992, served on numerous committees, was a Hope mentor, served on the Oakland Rotary Board from 2010 to 2012, and twice as an ORE trustee. He's a major donor to ORE and a Paul Harris Fellow. Ces has been married to Teresa for 22 years this November. They have 2 daughters, Raquel, 20, who is going into her senior year at Duke, and Andrea, who spent the last year traveling throughout the world before COVID struck and she was called home from India. In closing, a couple of stories that clearly define him. Ces and Denny, his business partner, called their partnership a match made in St. Louis, as it was Anheuser-Busch who brought the 2 of them together. However, it was really a match made in heaven. When Ces spent 2 years running for mayor in 1996-98, Denny took over and ran the business. Tragically, Denny was killed in an automobile accident in 2009. Ces resolved to always have Denny as part of Horizon Beverage and kept his office in the building with no one allowed in. When Ces completed the magnificent new facility near the Oakland Airport, there was an office established with Denny's name on it, a very nice office. A partnership truly honored for its mutual respect for one another after 22 years together. I once asked Earl Hamlin, former Port Commissioner and husband of Oakland Rotarian Bonnie Hamlin, how it was working with Ces on the Port Commission. Earl responded, and I quote, "He's extraordinary. The board really doesn't need anyone else when he's there, as he understands all the issues, how they interact with one another, and is always right with his comments and decisions. We're very fortunate to have him in Oakland Rotary. Please join me in a warm Rotary welcome for our 112th president, Ces Butner."
I'm waiting for the applause. Can't hear it on Zoom. Thank you, Jack, for that gracious introduction. You have always been an individual who our club could count on to be an ambassador for Rotary. I'd like to also thank our past president, Peter Saris, and our outgoing board members for guiding us through these past 3 months at the height of the pandemic. Likewise, I'd like to recognize my new board, and if you put the slide up, Their names are all on there, but the screen, it's worth mentioning the outgoing members. Karen Friedman, Steve Nichols, Merlin Edwards, Daniel Chang, and immediate past President Gudrun. Thank you for all your service to the club and reminding us what it takes to be a Rotarian. Finally, I'd like to thank all of you Rotary friends for giving me the honor of being president of Oakland Rotary #3 for the 2021 year. I am both humbled and challenged to be given this opportunity in this unique year. It has brought dramatic change to how we do things, from our virtual meetings to how we deliver our services to our community. Our vision stays the same. And in the tradition that Peter started, we will recite it at every beginning of every meeting. Together we see the world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe and in our community. It's very important, and the Rotary International has a theme called Rotary Opens Opportunities. For us at Oakland Rotary #3, I've adopted that theory this year with a little twist and added for service above self. You bring the screen up. It says Rotary opens opportunities for service above self. I've always loved that motto. It says so much in those 3 little words about what it means to be a Rotarian. Well, this Rotary 2021 year holds a lot of challenges, but at the same time offers great opportunities. We may not get back to face-to-face meetings until sometime next year, perhaps not even until my demotion. So how do we cope? Well, we'll continue with our virtual meetings format that was established and employ what we've learned. More breakout room for opportunities to speak to one another in smaller groups. More time for interaction with our speakers. And we'll generally try to make them feel a little more like our in-person meetings. But perhaps the biggest change will be exposing our meetings to a larger audience by partnering with other Rotary clubs. Whether or not it's our area, immediate area right here in Oakland, or the district, or I've even talked with the First Five Club, First Five Rotary clubs, Rotary Club of Chicago, San Francisco, us, Oakland, #3, LA, Seattle, and LA. Those are the first 5, and we'll be talking with them too. But we do this to bring in higher profile speakers to provide value for our membership, grow our brand, and add incentive for membership. Make our meetings the must attend event of the week. Our virtual meetings offer us a unique opportunity to remake our meetings to attract speakers that otherwise would never come to Oakland for an in-person meeting. And under the direction of David Stein, our 2021 chair of the speaker committee, we know we will make it happen. So mark it down. Our first goal is to bring excitement to our weekly meetings by changing the format slightly and adding high profile speakers. Go get them, David. I know you'll make it happen. Number 2 goal, membership. Our renewed interest in our weekly meetings will grow our membership. With the current economic situation, uncertainty about COVID, and as was reported at our last meeting, our membership stands around 275. We simply must get back to 300. Membership committee chairs, Jillian Lowe and David Gerber, have already met and come up with some great ideas to increase our membership during the coming year. But the job of membership rests with all of us. Everyone has a friend. I ask that you bring a friend to Rotary and let them share the gift of giving to the community. Past President John Protopopoulos has a record of 71 new members his year. Our goal will be a bit more modest, but we will strive to bring at least 50 new members into the club. I'm proud of the start we have to this year with our first two members, Dan Freeman and Shonda Scott, and I ask every Rotarian to welcome them. And of course, we'll be giving our service above self by continuing with our committee structure that we do have. And our chairs of our committee, the main ones we have, the Community World Service Committee with Renea Webb and Phil Bennett, and our community service, local community service with David Kittner, and all of our other ones from Sorority Lena, Kinder Prep, and Enterprise Institute, Business Development. There have always been long-standing and established committees that have successfully done our traditional work across the globe and in our communities. I have not met with each of you this year yet. I think you will like what you hear when we do, because of the great work of the board last year, our budget, despite the economic condition, will be as big as it was last year. And in many instances, we'll have more funds for some of the committees. So I encourage all Rotarians to pick a committee, commit to service above self, and be a Rotarian and be one of the committees help one of these committees achieve their objectives. As fundraising consists of ORE and Rotary International and Polio Plus, Rotary International and Polio Plus will remain the same, but my commitment to you this year is to take ORE, Oakland Rotary Endowment fundraising to a whole new level to ensure future boards have more than enough funds to expand the levels of service help in the community and throughout the world. We had to do some fancy footwork for this year to get our funding. I pledge to you never to put presidents, boards, or memberships in that position again. Well, what is this new level you're talking about raising? Well, I commit to you that Oakland trustees, are you listening? We will commit to raising $3 million in 3 years for the endowment.
Wow.
To head up this effort, I was looking around at past presidents and successful members to lead this effort, and I thought, who best to take on this task but me? I'm committing to it, so I'm going to take on the task. I'll be calling on a few of you to join me in the committee to make it happen. But you can be sure of this, that if I say it happen, I'll make it happen. And so join me in definitely raising the money that we need. To be sure, this is not a new idea. I believe a past president set a goal of $10 million for our endowment a few years back. This won't get us to 10 million, but we'll be close. Let's see, speakers, membership, service above self, fundraising. That would seem to be a lot to be going after, but I got one more. As you know, it's no secret that one of our community's greatest challenges is our homeless population. In recent years, it seems that it has grown from 0 to over 5,000 in the city of Oakland alone. It's a situation that affects us all. I almost cry every day that I drive by one of the homeless encampments. Not only for the dire helplessness of our brothers and sisters living unsheltered, but also for the healthcare crisis that the encampments create for citizens that have to daily walk by, going to school, going to work, just in the neighborhood. It's a disgrace for our city. But it's more than that to me. You see, it's personal to me. You know that little town of 2,500 people I grew up in that Jack mentioned during introducing me? Well, there's this homeless guy there. It was by the name of Brack Smith. As little boys, we used to tease old Brack and make fun of his situation all the time, but my mom caught wind of it, and she was having none of that. From that day forward, she made sure when I took my wagon or sled around to feed the elderly with meals that she had provided, my mom would always insist I carry a meal for Brock that I had to deliver too. I didn't understand then, but later realized she was teaching me lessons in humility, responsibility, caring, and respect for all human beings. It taught me that, but for the grace of God, it could be me. So I believe we can do something. I believe we are morally obligated to do something about it. Therefore, for my Rotary year, I'm creating a special homeless committee that will investigate opportunities to do something big and sustainable for our homeless population here in Oakland. I don't know what that is right now, but it will be a major effort that we will embark on, and it will have the Rotary wheel behind it to include a possible global grant coming to Oakland through one of our international partners. Past President Peter has agreed to chair my homeless committee. I'm so glad that you have, Peter. So if you're interested, contact Peter. I'm sure he'll be reaching out to you. But in addition to the homeless committee Peter will charter, we will have a whole series of speakers to help us wrap our arms around this issue. And maybe someday, somebody will inspire all our Rotarians to take care of the blacksmiths right here in Oakland. Thank you. That was supposed to be the crescendo of my remarks, but I couldn't leave without mentioning our statement on racism. While I'm proud of the statement from the third oldest Rotary Club in the world, it's just a beginning. It's what we do after the statement on racism. When you put that up on the screen, it says, I have to read this, there is no racism in our communities, and the very concept of such is against everything Rotary clubs and members of Rotary stand for and believe. Promoting respects, celebrating diversity, demanding ethical leadership, and working to advance peace and conflict resolution are central tenets of our work. We recognize that focusing on promoting community-based projects, as we have done for generations, is no longer enough. In addition, we need to work to eliminate policies and actions and unjust practices that promote privilege or subjugate the rights of any human being. Rotary's vision is to bring people together to create lasting change in our communities and in ourselves, and we will unite around that vision and stand with those who work for peace, justice, and equality for all members of our society. Black lives matter, and we believe that reform and change are necessary so that one day we can live in a society truly beneficial to all. We will continue to work to create a more just, open, and welcoming society for all people. Thank you so much for listening to me today, and I appreciate you all. Now, to begin Oakland Rotary's #3 2021 year, and to introduce our first speaker of the day, Rotarian Sonia Fritz. Take it away, Sonia.
Hi, Ces. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I am excited to welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Michael Mcafee, who will kick off this year-long series of talks on homelessness as part of Ces's vision, including the project that is being developed and brainstormed. Because breaking down complex inequities like those that underlie our homelessness crisis is exactly what Dr. Mcafee specializes in. Dr. Mcafee became CEO of PolicyLink in 2018 after serving as inaugural director of its Promise Neighborhoods Institute, which improved outcomes for 300,000 children. Also managing a $450 million project portfolio for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and leading the Kansas City Community Foundation and affiliated trusts to receive more contributions than any community foundation in America. So Dr. Mcafee has seen and addressed inequity from multiple vantage points, the front lines, policy circles, and philanthropy. And he's a perfect speaker to kick off our series on homelessness. A U.S. Army veteran, Dr. Mcafee lives in Oakland with his wife and 2 dogs and is an avid hiker, which I'm sure helps keep him grounded, given the intensity and importance of his work. If you have questions as he talks, please put them in the chat and he'll answer them after. Please welcome Dr. Michael Mcafee.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be with you. Mr. Butner, I want to thank you for your leadership and really thank all of you all at Rotary for the service that you provide, the leadership in community. The work that you do is so important, especially at this moment in our nation, because you embody something that I think is really powerful, associational life. The ability of us as citizens to improve our communities and thereby improving our democracy. And so I wanted to thank you for your enduring service, the enduring ways you all take up that charge in community every day. Your work is seen, I see it. And I wanna, because you're connected to community and you're starting this series of talks around homelessness, I wanted to start at kind of a high level to provide some grounding, because as you go through more of your conversations, they're going to get deeper and deeper into the issue. There's a couple of numbers that I want to leave you with, because they really are important for you to think about as we think about solving this problem. The first is that there is over 100 million folks in America living at 200% of poverty. That's 1 in 3 people who are economically insecure. And in the aggregate, the majority of those folks are white, but are quickly becoming people of color. And I share that number with you because it represents a structural breakdown in our economy and our democracy, and we've yet to tend to it. And I want you to hold that number because it's only going to get bigger. We could wish it to go away. We could just put our feet in cement on whatever side of the political spectrum we want to be on. But what will still remain is that 100 million number, it's 100 million plus, is going to get bigger. And I really say that because I'm not joining you trying to have a political argument, debate. I'm trying to have a conversation around how do we improve the lives of all Americans? And that's where I heard Mr. Butner, where you came into your service. That's really our charge. So you got 100 million folks. And here's the kicker. The majority of the folks in that population who can work 2 jobs. The majority of the folks who are either not retired or are disabled or some other category like that, or just youth. The majority of the folks who are struggling in that 100 million that are economically insecure work 2 jobs. And here's what that means in the Bay Area. Of approximately 15 neighborhoods in the Bay Area, if you work 2 jobs right now at $15 an hour, you can only afford to live in 5% of that 1,500 neighborhoods. And I really want you to think about that for a moment, because that right there is the structural problem that we've let fester now to where it's really, really hard to manage it. That you got 1,500 neighborhoods in the Bay Area and only 5% of them are affordable to a family that's already working 2 jobs. And so there's a couple of things that I want you to think about as you all are working in community, is I want you to see the system by which that happens. First, people often say, you know, these folks are just lazy and they ought to work. And that's why I tried to say to you, they already are. They're working 2 jobs and they still can't make ends meet. Many will say, yeah, but you know, maybe they should just get more education and compete for those jobs. Partially true. But in many cases, they end up being locked out of the employment market. Think about what happens in our own backyard. The most educated group in America right now is Black women. The most educated, advanced degree group is Black women. And yet, if you look at the driver of our economy regionally, the tech space, you would not even know that. And so it's a really good example of how you can see that even if you're doing what everybody says, there are these structural barriers that are in the way. And so that's why I'm trying to give you some of these numbers so that we can start saying, well, why is that happening? Because it used to be, just take your lazy butt and get a job. People heard that, they're doing it. They're working 2 jobs and can't afford to live in the Bay. Then people said, well, you know, you just ought to go get an education. What the Bay is showing us that is even if you get an education and you can compete, you don't get hired in the Bay if you're a person of color. And so you can imagine then from there what happens. The bottom line is being poor in America is really, really expensive. And you see that price being paid right now. The very people we're calling heroes are the very folks we turned our nose up at just a few months ago. Folks who pick up the trash, who bag our groceries, who work in these warehouses, who work in these meat plants, packing plants. These folks are struggling to make ends meet, and oftentimes they don't have good benefits. Those things that keep us from falling off into poverty, they don't have a good benefit structure. They don't get the leave schedules that we get. They don't get the disability short-term and long-term benefits packages that allow us to have some safety net. And then when you look at what some of our states have begun to do, and this is why I'm so glad to be in this region, you actually have designed a safety net so that it doesn't work. And here's why this becomes so toxic. Florida is a really good example. The last governor, and this, you can look this up online, whatever media outlets you like, the last governor designed their unemployment system to not work. Now think about that. To use taxpayer dollars to design a system not to serve its people, but to intentionally not work. Because what was running in the background that is doesn't have to be said anymore is the racist trope of the Black welfare queen. We don't want those lazy folks to have unemployment insurance. They'll never go back to work. You've even heard people say this right now. We think so little of our people in this nation that our COVID numbers are going up and we still deny it. We think so little of our folks that in a high cost area, we think they don't even deserve $600 extra a month. Think about that. When, regardless of what you think about other folks around the country, they're proving that keeping their folks employed, giving them a basic stable income, kept them from falling into homelessness. Now, how does this all relate to homelessness? What I'm trying to signal to you is that there is a hierarchy of human value that is running through this nation that we've not tended to. It has a tinge of anti-Black racism that when you try to pass really good public policy, it gets racialized, like just having good health care, just having decent, safe, and affordable housing, that it almost prevents anything from happening. And so what ultimately ends up happening is you have a society now where white business owners, white working class folks who never thought they would be in this situation now in Florida are discovering that that system doesn't work for them, that there is no safety net. There's nothing. When you read the book, Dying of Whiteness, you begin to see that something tragically is happening, and in almost any other case, we'd be calling it a public health crisis. White male health outcomes are deteriorating faster than Black male health outcomes now. And the reason why that's concerning is because what it's saying is now, a lot of the policies and systems designs that were intended to deny Black America opportunity is now doing that to white folks at an accelerated rate. And we haven't tended to that crisis yet. Now I'm going to just end quickly here because I want to have time to talk. So what does this mean for housing? Here's what it means. It means, think about the cliff that we're on right now with housing, with over 40 million folks being unable to pay their rent or their mortgage right now. And we decided that, you know what, we weren't even going to give them a little bit of stable income to get through this. There's no way they're going to catch up on that. And philanthropy can't do that. Philanthropy can't help the thousands of folks in the Bay Area who are getting ready to have this eviction cliff happen. Landlords are salivating. Firms like BlackRock and Blackstone are salivating because they're ready to come in and buy this up. This is the market. This is the way capitalism works. Not critiquing capitalism here. But what I'm saying is there is a design that exacerbates the things that we're working on. And this is an example. We've got a homelessness crisis that is really getting ready to get grossly accelerated as soon as the stay over rent or the mortgage forbearances don't go through. Now, this is happening because of that hierarchy where we've said, this group of people, not a priority for us. And then on the back end, when these people fall into the street, we've crafted a set of ordinances in the Bay Area. You can't solicit for personal needs, meaning I can't ask for help if I'm on the street. I need to have a permit to ask for help, to ask for charity. I can't bathe in public places. I can't block pedestrians. I can't sit in a park after hours. I can't solicit on the street. I can't sleep on benches. I can't sit or lie on the street. I can't solicit near restaurants, and I can't sit or solicit near golf courses. So you basically have told me on the front end, you didn't care about me enough to keep me out of homelessness. And when I fall in homelessness now, your response is to criminalize the behavior. That's why it's expensive. So imagine if you're getting fined every day for trying to figure out how to live on the street and you already don't have any money. This is how fines, fees, permits actually further strip wealth from the very folks that others like Rotary and foundations, et cetera, are trying to build wealth with. And so the issue of homelessness is about so much more than what we see. It starts with living wage income. It starts with, can we actually have a conversation around how to have a really healthy economy and care for our people? Can we have really good health care? Can we have a system where we don't just penalize folks for being poor? These sound like simple things, but because of that anti-Black racism that still runs through our public policy debates, really good things don't happen, just like the recent battle with healthcare. So I wanted to just share some of this high-level framing as you go forward. 100 million folks in America economically insecure. Of 1,500 neighborhoods, folks who work 2 jobs can only afford 5% of those neighborhoods to live in. As you think about how we've shown how we care or do not care for those most in need, even the middle class in this nation, that they are now all middle class and poor folks are facing really a housing crisis right now because they can't catch up on their rent or their mortgage without some support. And that will fall then to the laps of places like Rotary and others where people expect us to clean up that carnage. And so I wanted to share that because this crisis can be averted by stabilizing rents. That's the driver. Stabilizing rents. Even going back to things like land banking and community trust so that we start setting land that becomes available on the market aside so that it can be used for decent, safe, and affordable housing. The Bay Area is leading the way in some of this, giving nonprofits first right of refusal for some of the parcels of land or foreclosed properties that go forward. I think that's really a great step forward. Beginning to minimize some of these really onerous fines and fees that actually really work against some of the other results that we're trying to do. These are things that we can begin to do to help folks, not criminalizing mental health issues. Other nations have shown us ways to do this work. And our arrogance, quite frankly, keeps us from wanting to look outward and ask, is there a better way? And the irony is, it's been women around the globe who have showed us how to navigate this crisis, how to care for their people, and they're getting better outcomes right now. And so I'll stop there and we can jump into some questions. Because what I'm asking you to begin to think about as you think about our city is to ask ourselves, where are our institutions doing harm unintentionally? Because of a law that's on the books, that our regulation that we haven't paid attention to. Where's it doing harm and where is it getting in the way of the results that we want to get? So that when you raise that $3 million plus, it actually can go to results that aren't being undercut by the ways in which a municipal government may be getting in the way. So I'll stop there and see if there are questions.
Well, thank you so much, Michael, Dr. Mcafee. We have a few questions, I think, that have come through the chat line.
Okay.
And Deepa, do you have some of the questions?
I do.
All right.
Hello, Michael. David Kittner asks, do you have any idea on increasing the number of housing units in the Bay Area?
Yeah, you know, I'm on the board of Bridge Housing, and right now the housing crisis is so severe. You need over 100,000 units of housing. That's how severe the housing crisis is right now. You need over 100,000 units of housing. And it costs nearly over $500,000 for a unit. And so when I'm talking to the developers and Bridge Housing, this is where some of the innovation has to occur. How do you get some of these construction costs down? Because this is just untenable. And so that's an example of, you got really high demand right now, 100,000 plus, and the cost of a unit is around sitting at $500,000 plus. That's just for a condo or an apartment. And so you've got these forces, the market forces, just the reality of who's moving to the Bay, because it is a job center in the country. It's a very tough one right now, but you have folks doing some great work, the developers around prefab things, other examples of getting that construction cost down so that you can actually afford to do more.
Fred Morse asks, is zoning the tool of segregation and poverty?
Zoning has been a tool in California. If you read The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein, you'll see how elegantly we design. We designed housing policy to exclude. It was race-based and it was designed to exclude. So if you overlaid the race-based policies that go back probably 60 years ago, and then you overlay poverty maps, low-income maps, where do those frontline workers that we call heroes live, all of that, you will see that they line up beautifully. The New York Times, Rolling Stone, I believe, recently did this for New York around the COVID-19 crisis. Those maps overlay, and this is that exotic results-based design of oppression that we often would just wish would go away. But we've never stopped to ask ourselves one fundamental question. If I was maximally successful at denying people opportunity, how long does it take for us, everybody, to catch up? See, that's the question we don't have answers for, because we've been maximally successful. So you think at who could buy land in the Bay Area when it was cheap, when they got their home for about $200,000 or $300,000, and today it's over $1 million in Trestle Glen and other neighborhoods? You see why people of color are constantly behind. If you even go up to Marin County today, you can still see some deeds that still have, you cannot sell to Negroids. Think about that.
Sonia asks, what are your thoughts on guaranteed income movements?
I think guaranteed income is a powerful tool. There is evidence that shows that guaranteed income works. Long before the United States started doing pilots like what's going on in Stockton with Mayor Michael Tubbs, et cetera, I know Mayor Libby Schaaf is looking at this and is excited about it. Here's what I know. If government is too inefficient and nonprofits really aren't structured to provide the scale of service that is needed, why wouldn't you put money in people's hands? If you and I fell into poverty, you wouldn't say, give me 20 nonprofits. You'd say, give me some gas in my car, help me to keep my lights on, keep my rent paid so I can go out here and look for another job. And so the way we think about poverty is so counter to how you and I would live. We want people to pay maximum attention to our user experience. When I take my car to the Porsche dealer, I expect a certain level of customization. I go to a restaurant, I want people to get to know me and treat me right. But yet when it comes to poverty, we've designed a system that is really about being punitive. It really isn't a system that's designed to say, well, what do people really need? And here's why this is so important. PPP is a perfect example. It didn't go to Black and brown folks. So the very folks who are struggling the most, you design another federal program that didn't work for them. Here's another example. And I was in the middle of these fights. Opportunity zones was another one. Everybody said, oh, you know, if we let rich folks get these tax credits to redevelop in distressed areas, it's going to really help Black and brown people. That was the language they used to get the program passed. But there was never any intentionality or any commitment to target. And so the Urban Institute just 2 weeks ago issued a report that said, once again, opportunity zones really empowered wealthy folks to make an additional source of revenue. It didn't help poor people. So these are two examples right now that if you care about accountability and results, no matter where you sit on the political spectrum, we've just let billions of dollars go out from the federal government in unaccountable ways. And we have to stop that. We have to call it out. This is why I said I'm not having a political argument with you. I'm having a results argument that if you want to change outcomes, you got to get serious about the strategies that actually would work. And universal basic income is one where the science shows that it works. And those dog whistles of, they'll just go buy liquor. They'll just go buy unhealthy food. You're discovering, even in the pilots in Stockton, that that's actually not what's happening, which is really exciting to see.
Would jobs and strengthening families help to relieve the homeless crisis? From Garrett.
Jobs are key. They're key for us. They're key for us. That's how we're able to stay where we're at. Jobs is fundamental. Families are strong. Families are already strong. Families are working 2 jobs and trying to raise their kids and trying to survive, and they're doing it in spite of all these obstacles that I'm telling you about. I wonder if we could survive a month if we swapped roles. So families are strong. The problem is when you have employers that don't actually have really good supports for employees, where employers don't really get like some consistency around scheduling so folks can have some consistency. All these things that we take for granted. Imagine if you could only plan your life based on you had to wait till a Thursday for someone told you what the hours you'd be working on a Monday, and you were already resource poor. That wouldn't work for you. But there's these little minor tweaks that we could make right now to how frontline workers experience things that would make it really easy for them to better manage their lives. And one is just around having some consistency around scheduling, so you can deal with childcare, family care, other things like that. We produced a report called Advancing Frontline Workers with Walmart, and it lays out over 20 strategies that could be used today to actually help frontline workers actually move up into the middle class and beyond. So there's a lot of techniques out there, a lot of tools, and the question becomes, do our leaders have the service orientation that is embodied in Rotary? Do we actually care for each other? Do we see each other's humanity enough to want to do some of these things?
Sandeepa, do we have time probably for one more question? You can get it in.
Sure. So one of the most important questions is, how can our Rotary help with the homelessness crisis?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. I think there are a couple
my question. I was going to ask that at the end. That's good though.
Well, I think there's some exciting ways. One is, if you were to think about some really high leverage areas, like bridge housing is a really good example. This is a place where developers, housing providers are sitting at the same table, and they're building community all around the Bay Area. And so if you wanted to do service projects in those same developments, et cetera, you're leveraging all your dollars, because they're thinking about where the grocery stores will be, where the transit stops will be, where trees will be, the design of the buildings, what the families need. And that gives you pretty much a one-stop shop into going into a community and figuring out from the ground up roles that you could play, whether it's on the development side, whether it's on the design and layout of the parks in that community, or whether it's actually working directly with families. So I would say these housing providers in the Bay, Bridge Housing and others, you aligning with them allows you to leverage your rich volunteer pool, as well as some of your other financial resources that you bring. I would say that's probably one of the highest leverage places right there.
Well, thank you, Dr. McAfee. We appreciate all the stats that you gave us and perspective that you've given us for attacking the homeless situation that we're going to attack this year.
You're welcome. Just deep gratitude for all that you do. Thank you.
This year, our club is making homelessness situation an Oakland priority. To that end, in your honor, we are making a donation to support the unhoused residents of Oakland.
Nice. Wonderful.
That's our gift for you that we give for the day. Additionally, we will give you one of our books for our 100 years history that we have in Oakland Rotary.
I'm honored.
We'll try to get that out to you as soon as we possibly can as well. So just thank you so much for framing this subject that is so important to me and to all of our Rotarians.
You're welcome. Take care, everyone.
Sandeepa, do we have any bell ringers or something?
Oh my God, we have so many bell ringers today. I'll start with Joe Gorleka, bell ringing in honor of you and the Homeless Project. Then we also have Joe once again, bell ringing in honor of you, Jason Wisselman, Karen Friedman, Tom Limon, Kristen Watson, Beth Hillman, Peter Sherris, Bruce Nye, Linda Bosnecker, John Protopas, Gary Flaxman, Mike Mowry, David Stein, Robert Bricker, Phil Bennett again. We have John Classman, we have Shonda Scott, we have Linda Chu.
We have so many. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate the ringing of the bell.
We have Shannon Hackley ringing bell.
All right.
And we also have Joycey Mack.
And Joycey Mack. Thank you. Dudley, I think this is getting off to a great start for your year. We're raising money for you for next year. That's what we're doing here. Let's see. We got to talk about what we're going to do for next speaker next week. Is that Greg Knight or David? Greg Knight, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Thank you, President Ces and fellow Rotarians, and Dr. McAfee. That was a very powerful presentation, raised a lot of issues that I'm sure many of us will keep talking about. Next week, we have Gary, Virginia. So have you ever wondered how San Francisco Pride started? So be here next week to get the inside scoop on San Francisco Pride from its start 50 years ago with a march and a gay-in, I'm not sure what that is, to honor the New York City Stonewall riots of 1969 to becoming one of the largest LGBTQ events in the country. This year, SF Pride's traditional parade and celebration were canceled due to COVID-19, something that our club understands all too well. So our July 16th presenter, Gary, Virginia, is a past president of the SF Pride organization, a seasoned event planner, activist, and community leader who has raised more than $1 million for charity. Gary's excited to share how many groups reimagine their events in creative ways during an ongoing pandemic, economic challenges, and the political unrest that we're seeing today. From the illuminated pink triangle atop Twin Peaks to record-breaking proceeds this year for the annual Pride Brunch to support the Positive Resource Center, Gary will explain why and how the show must go on. So be here next week to get the inside scoop from Gary, Virginia.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Greg. We should be all set for next week. We're going to have a fun time as usual. We will always try to seek to have fun, even in the hard work that we do, trying to serve the community that we live in. Thank you so much for being part of my first meeting. And this meeting of Oakland Rotary number 3, the first meeting of 2020 to 21 is adjourned.
Great job, Ces. Great job, Ces. I'm proud of you.
Great job. Congratulations.
We have some more bell ringers from Facebook.
Oh, more for Facebook.
Yes, Cynthia Harris rang a bell from Facebook.
Thank you so much. All right, this meeting's adjourned.
Bye.